Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about My Hero Academia. Oh, let me move this to the side because you know how Shonen Jump gets. Hey everyone. 395. I'm a bit late. I was having a very difficult 2 weeks in terms of how much work I had to do, and this was the week I finally got to sit down and watch anime and finally get to sit down to do like 30 minutes of Hero Academia, probably going to be an hour. But I don't know about this chapter, man. I don't think I'll talk about it too much, mostly because, well, I'm fatigued. I'm fatigued with the Toga stuff. I do think this chapter was quite nice, but I look at it and I see little things that make me think, okay, I can kind of see what you're doing there. And the little things I really do mean, like really, really little things. But when I look at it, I, so many people think this is really good because this is a really good note for Toga to end on, like sacrificing herself to save Ochako. And yeah, like theoretically it is, but I have my personal pet peeves about this. Personally, I think this is very convenient. I think the whole thing with Toga was very convenient. I think the Twice's disappearing because the original Twice quirk disappears is silly. Sure, that saves everyone. It's very convenient, very good for a series that's ending. But like when you look at it, what's harder for society? Toga dying here or having to deal with the aftermath of like what do we do with Toga? How do we treat her? How do we help her? You take away all of society's, you take away all the difficult parts. So now it's like, how is society going to change when how is society going to be able to help people when they're like at this level like Toga is? Like she's the person that society needs to show that they can at least try and go and make a difference in, like in the life of. And to a greater note, you've seen it. If you read a lot of stories or watch a lot of stories, you've seen it. Sometimes they have characters refuse to kill their villains, but the villain at some point is just so dangerous that unless you properly secure them, they're going to be a problem. And in those stories, what ends up happening is that the villain ends off offing themselves by accident or because they indulge too much in their vice or something like that. Like they didn't take the mercy when they could, and they end up just like accidentally killing themselves, falling in a vat of acid or something like that. And it's like that's when the story kills the villain because it knows the story and the author knows they can't let the villain keep going because they're gonna wreck everything. But my big point there is with this kind of situation, when you have circumstances taking out a character, you get rid of all the potential cool stuff that you could see and all the hard questions. Like this is a problem when writers don't want to confront the hard solution, or they don't want to confront the hard work that has to go, like maybe even the boring work that has to go into like properly dealing with this kind of problem. So that's a little bit sad there, but on a greater note, the thing about this chapter, and I feel really bad for the people that really thought that Toga dying here is a good idea, is just Bakugo's been dead for a year, but he's coming back. He's getting heart surgery. This has been the longest heart surgery we've ever seen in Hero Academia. But Bakugo's coming back from having his heart ripped apart. And Toga here is going to die of blood loss? Me personally, I don't believe it. And I think that's what ultimately sours the whole experience for me, just because it's like, I personally think that, because if you take out Toga, you're taking out a lot of Shigaraki's friends. And I really think that this story is not going to end with Shigaraki friendless. I really think Toga is going to stick around to be able to call out to Shigaraki at the very critical moment. So, overall, I'm looking at this and I just can't get into it. I can't get into the idea that Toga is dead here. If she's dead, then props to Horikoshi for going all the way with that. But I don't believe it. Same thing with the Bakugo situation. I don't believe it. With him dying. So here we are. We'll see what happens. Let's get into the chapter. We'll talk about things as they pop up. I'm also very exhausted from today. So the first page is in a lot of ways interesting for a lot of different reasons. We have the Endeavor family. They're very blurry here, but this is the Endeavor family. We see Ida and all that. I find it hilarious that all of the Togas got very, very close to the people, including Ida, but ultimately were unable to finish it off. And like honestly, if Toga got to them, what was gonna happen? They'd probably just get cut up a few times because like everyone else is still alive. Everyone else that got caught in that giant wave of Twice Togas still alive. So like this isn't really that big of a deal. But good to know Endeavor is still holding on. Him and Natsu was doing the best to make sure the family didn't die there. We have Ida over here about to get fingered in the eye. Yeah, he survived. Like, what were they gonna do? Probably just push him around a little bit, like just draw some blood here and there. Like, what was Toga gonna do? Apparently, this has been going on for like. I just read like the most recent chapter that's coming out on Sunday. We'll talk about that one at the end if you guys want. Well, you can stick around at the end. We'll just quickly talk about some things there. But yeah, man, like. What are they gonna do? Just push him around? Like, I don't take her seriously at this point. She had 20 minutes to try and mess with stuff. Alright, so on page 2 and 3, we have this situation, right? Where, like, Toga goes and she cuts up Buddy Guy, not twice, Buddy Guy Hawks. Now, me personally, when I see this page, I can't help but think, like, yo, like, this feels insulting. Because, like, there she is trying to cut him up. And he's like, hey, Toga, you just failed. But yeah, you know, like, twice was a pretty decent guy. And it's like, I just feel bad for Toga. Like, she got so close, and you have it, Hawks ending it off with, like, oh yeah, twice was a pretty decent guy. Too bad. Didn't kill him. I mean, he probably means it in another way, but at the same time, like, she failed hard. Like, she had one job, and she didn't get there. Okay, anyway, after that, we go into, like, her inner monologue where she's like, I thought I wield my knife to become those who I love, but I ended up wielding it out of rage. You have shots of her naked over top of Ochako's body. We go into page 4, and page 4 is pretty much just explaining what Ochako did, just making Ochako more of a hero, and just explaining that there's a drawback to Toga using Ochako's quirk or another quirk for so long, like she's getting, like, pretty much blasted up or whatever, for whatever reason. And then page 5 is just Toga looking around. We see Suyu. We see that the other heroes are still, like, lying about. Again, you know what? If Toga manages to kill a bunch of no-names, then that's better than nothing. For all the things that she did. But, like, right now, I really do like the idea of Toga just tackling everyone and not really killing anyone here. I really hope. I really want to see what the results of this 20 minutes of carnage would be. Anyway, we go into page 6 and 7, which is, I think, a nice little sequence where Toga's explaining that the world that the League of Villains is going to create, really have to change that to the world that All for One is going to create. So, already she is fundamentally wrong, because she's going to live under All for One's thumb, and he's going to manipulate her till the end of her days. So, it's not really the League of Villains destroying everything, it's All for One. Like, the League of Villains is done. Dobby's pretty much a living corpse. Twice is dead. Spinner has been doped out of his mind, and Shigaraki is currently fighting for his life in his mental world. Yeah, like, the League of Villains is pretty much done here. Like, I kind of wished... I do want to see Toga come to grips with the fact that, like, All for One is not creating the world that she wants. But we go into the whole thing where, like, she cares about Ochako, and this is all very consistent with her. She doesn't want to live without Ochako. Given that Toga is a very selfish person, this makes sense. It makes sense. Like, she prioritizes people more than other people. Like, this makes sense. Okay, so page 8 and 9, we have a whole thing where Toga's going to be giving Ochako all of her blood. You know what? In the spoilers, it said that Toga stitched up Ochako. Did I miss it here in the actual chapter? I don't see that she stitched Ochako up. Maybe I missed it somewhere. Maybe... Oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. It's like right in front of my face. There it is. Let me stitch you up. There, that's where it is. Yeah, it's so tiny, though. It's so tiny. Like, that's a blink and you miss it moment. Alright, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Page 8 and 9, though, like, it is my favorite little sequence. One of my favorite sequences, just because you have the stitching happening there. But you also have, like, what Ochako was planning on doing, maybe, like, visiting her in prison and making those blood donations until she died. This page, I also really enjoy it because it has a pretty stupid line for her. Just doing the right thing like a plain old hero in reference to eliminating the freaks from the world. And, you know, like, she's kind of still playing that idea of that heroes would kill her. And it's like, bro, like, the majority of heroes aren't going to go as far as Hawks did. Hawks was a special case. And, like, imagine that it took Hawks, the one who's been trained for a very specific purpose, successor to Nagant, to be the one to do that to Twice, right? So it's just really funny because this is still Toga operating on faulty knowledge, but all Toga ever does is operate on faulty knowledge. So, consistent. Okay, so I don't have page 10 and 11 saved on my computer or whatever. Page 10 and 11 is just, again, more Toga explaining herself, just telling Ochako thank you. It's always interesting what she doesn't apologize for, you know, like, she's apologizing for stabbing Ochako and screaming at her, but, like, yeah, no apologies for, like, wrecking all her friends. Nah, that never really matters. It's all about Ochako. But again, consistent with who Toga is. Now on this page, this is another segment that I actually really enjoy as well, and the reason for that is simply over here, because like one of the things with Toga that you have to like kind of square when you're talking about her is that, okay, she has a compulsion to drink blood. Does she have a compulsion to drink every drop of blood in a person's body? Because this is what the murders by bloodletting was. Like, Toga was draining people of their blood to the point that they died, right? So when you have this, and then you go into here, so in fits of jealousy and affection, I drank all of their blood. Now, like, what I see here is just Horikoshi explaining why it was that Toga was drinking all of their blood, and I appreciate that. But once you put in the fits of jealousy and affection, it's like, okay, because you were jealous, you didn't stop at just drinking someone's blood, you went all the way to the end, right? Like, this is again like a very good nuanced show of Toga. Like, you're giving a really good explanation as to like the big question is like, why did she go all the way when it came to the people she murdered? Why did she go all the way to drinking all their blood? And now you have it. It's just pretty much she was jealous, and like her affection vector coming into play. So that was really good. Really appreciated that from Horikoshi. Just have to like remind you, like, again, this is very much Toga. This is Toga. This is who she is. She is a creature of jealousy, affection, and that compulsion to drink blood. And you mix them all together, and you add some disdain for society, and you get Murderer Toga. Now, page 14 and 15, when I read it, this feels like that page that is there for people that don't understand the imagery. So this is pretty much the whole sequence here. Maybe, just maybe, I'd known this feeling sooner, then despite how badly I wanted to drain their blood, I would have yearned to give my blood away too. If I'd experienced that sort of love, I maybe would have had an easier time in this world. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, if I had experienced that sort of love, I think like the fan translations had a note about if she had experienced that sort of love sooner. So like this is pretty much just solidifying the whole metaphor, or the visual metaphors of Ochako and Toga meeting as kids. And it comes back to the story that we were talking about in the last chapter. It's pretty much, if these people had been intervened on when they were younger, they would have had a different trajectory. It's the same thing over and over and over. So like thematically we are there. And I might have sounded annoyed at that. I apologize. I'm not annoyed. I'm just pointing out like the thematics for Dabi, Toga, and Shigaraki are all very similar. So it's consistently now the message of be nice to people when they're kids, because you never know where they're going to end up later. That's one of the biggest things. And of course, when we're looking at All for One, that's going to be a big question. Is All for One going to get the same story? For all intents and purposes, he should, because it seems like All for One grew up poor, so like there must be something going on there. Or are you going to say like All for One was born twisted? I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure that guy still loves his brother. Anyway, if I experienced that sort of love, maybe we would have had an easier time living in this world. Very clear. It matches with the visual metaphors that we got before. And we hand off with Toga saying that she's Toga and she lives how she pleases. And ultimately, when it comes down to that, yeah, shit. She did live as she pleased. Like, this was very much Toga. This is like the most Toga you've ever seen, really, with how decidedly herself she is, how she values the world, how she's very like she has no shame when she talks about what she's apologizing for and what she cares about the most. In a lot of ways, it's really nice that you have someone that's this clear about what she's about. It's very nice that you have someone who can like flat out tell you exactly why she took everyone's blood and all that kind of stuff, right? So interestingly, I do think this is one of the best Toga chapters of this whole sequence, just because it's like, this is really coherent, but this is pretty much building off of what came in the last 3 chapters. It's just putting it all together, so naturally it would be very coherent. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. Really, the thing that can ruin this experience is just Toga not dying. Like, that's the only thing that would really ruin this, because the thing that's making Ochako cry here is that Toga is giving up her life for her. Now, mind you, like, I am very used to this shenanigan of someone giving their life for another person and all the tears that come along with it, because Fairy Tail does it. Fairy Tail did it a lot. So when I'm looking at this here, the thing you have to take away here is that Toga was willing to give up her life for her, right? Like, if Toga survives, the thing that you have to think is, no, that's good. Yeah, great. She's alive. And like, you know for sure that she thought she was gonna die. Like, it doesn't take away anything from her experience, right? It only takes away from the experience of the readers who might be a little bit bloodthirsty. Not actually bloodthirsty, but you get what I'm saying. Like Fairy Tail did these kind of things if Toga survives, and usually when Fairy Tail does it, or like a more idealistic series does it, the idea was this character was willing to go that far. It is a blessing that they survived, and now the people can continue on without having to be depressed, right? So that's pretty much what we gotta wait to see here. Are we going to see Toga come back? Is Eri gonna show up? We have that note from Hawk saying that there's still hope when he was thinking about the fact that the refugee pods were nearby. Is Eri gonna show up? Are other heroes gonna show up to help the scene here? We'll have to see. Now this is a very short video because I don't have that much stuff to say. I read the fan translations for the next chapter, 396. You don't have to stay here for this video if you're gonna leave because you don't want the spoilers. That's alright. Thanks for being here. 396. Just looking at it now, like we'll do a proper walkthrough when I get the time to do the proper review. But I'm seeing things I really like in it so far. We're seeing the thing about All For One giving in to his Shigaraki rage and going after All Might. Pretty much the brain of a teenager is too much for All For One to handle. The brain of the maladapted teenager he raised is too much for him to handle. We have a lot of other things going on in there, like Tsukachi not knowing that All Might's car was a support item. We have references to the prophecy. I really like that. And we see that All Might's really inspired by Class 1A. We can see that he's using techniques inspired by Class 1A. I think he's even using a technique inspired by Red Riot. But yeah, no man, it's pretty neat. And like the chapter starts with this happened 20 minutes before the Toga twice has disappeared, right? So really good to know where the timeline is on this one. But yeah, there's a lot of little details in this fight, and like the power levels are crazy just with the destruction beam that All For One was firing around. One of the things I find ridiculous is how they're talking about someone with a quirk can't beat can't beat All For One, and he's talking about like Tsukachi talks about the weakness of support items, and one of the things I'm thinking is like, bro, a gun, a simple pistol will kill the majority of people with quirks. A simple pistol and good aim and like a headshot kills the majority of people with quirks, man. Like, it's just funny, no matter what support items you have, without a quirk, you're no match for the demon. Bro, there is 101 quirks that are no match for All For One right now. Like, it's just funny, man. Like, it's really falling apart in real time, like this blind affection they have for quirks. Like, I've seen a lot of trash quirks. Bro, let me tell you, if All Might went to that fight with Suyu's quirk, he's not going to survive that, bro. He's not surviving that. Suyu could barely survive getting tackled by Toga. Nah, man. No, it's just funny. It's just funny. Like, honestly, right now, All Might with his power suit is like taking, like he could All Might with his power suit wipes out the majority of like people who are like in, let's say, like top 50 below. Like, there's only a handful of people that could actually handle power suit All Might by all intents and purposes. Like, one of the things too with quirks in Hero Academia is that the more your quirk can do, the more powerful you tend to be. And this power suit is doing a lot, man. The power suit just tanked a blast from All For One. Yeah, no. There's like some other parts that are just seem kind of nonsensical about All For One's strategy against. All Might talking about All For One's strategy. Specifically, he talks about like All For One's strategy is a clumsy long-range attack and then weaken the opponent to steal their quirk. And he says that strategy only works against someone who has a quirk. Bro, only the last part of that strategy doesn't work against someone who has a quirk. Like, attacking from long range is smart. Yeah, it's clumsy, but it's All For One, so whatever. Attacking from long range is smart. Weakening an opponent is also smart. Bro, the only part of that strategy that doesn't work is the bottom, is the last half. Like, long range is always a good strategy. So the dialogue is kind of nonsensical there for that one for me. The chapter has Melissa showing up, which is really neat. And yeah, man. Overall, that power suit, like, wipes out the majority of quirked heroes, man. Like, you only have the guys at the top who could actually probably survive the power suit. I mean, someone like Sirius, and okay, like, to be fair, the sidekicks are sidekicks. They're not heroes for a reason, but, you know, like, Rocklock's not gonna survive that. You crazy? Manual gets busted real quick, man. Yeah, no, like, really nonsensical chapter, when it comes to, like, trying to pump up how much of a disadvantage you're in if you have a support item. Like, bro, come on. This is something I always mention, but like, Night Eye is a professional hero. His quirk only works for 1 hour a day. Everything else is pure Japanese muscle. Yeah, man, nah, it's funny. Guys, let me know what you thought down below. We gave that video a few minutes just talking about chapter 396. Till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.